Hey guys, welcome to Bibarel the Terrible. Took a dominating Mucus featuring the old Goodra from Fusion Strike with the Slimy Room ability, forcing opponent to flip a coin each time they attach energy from their hand onto any one of their Pokemon, discarding the energy if they get a Tails if you have this Pokemon in the active spot. We also have our Noivern EX for the extra control, preventing all damage onto this Pokemon by attacks from basic Pokemons during our opponent's next turn with Covert Flight, or locking our opponent from playing any stadium cards from their hand on their next turn with Dominating Echo for 1 Psychic and 1 Darkness while doing 140 damage. It works really well against decks that rely on stadium cards like Magma Basin or Pokestop to function, or if they rely on their rulebox abilities, we have our Path to the Peak to lock them from playing those abilities while denying them from playing their stadium cards from their hand on their next turn to remove our path. But there are still counters against this strategy, obviously, since they can play Lost Vacuum Worker or Pumpkaboo to remove our stadium card. We also have our Crushing Hammer and Rugged Helmet to support our Goodra, with 1 Misfortune Sister to discard cards like Super Energy Retrieval or Electric Generator from the top 5 cards of our opponent's deck, to help us draw cards into our hand while playing our Bibarel, Radiant Venusaur, and Skwovet with 2 Iono, 1 Serena, and 2 Arven for the extra search, helping us do the Rare Candy evolution a lot faster. We also have our regular items for the setup, 1 Raihan and 1 Experience Share to help us keep attacking right after our active Pokemon gets knocked out, 1 Energy Search with 2 Luminous to support our Rainbow energy cost, since we are playing 3 different types of energy for 2 different dragon attackers. Finally, we have 1 Escape Rope for the switch, 1 Manaphy for the bench barrier, 1 Boss for the short power play, and 1 Starmie V for the surprise knockout using Energy Spiral, hitting 50x damage for each energy attached to all of our opponent's Pokemon. So that's all for the deck list. Now let's go for some gameplay and see how well this deck works. Okay, let's go for our first game versus PAL EX. So, funny thing about Becks for meta right now is that they are attaching from their hand as much energy, as much water energy as they like, but each time they attach from their hand though, we actually get to force them to flip a coin, and no matter how many energies they get to attach, if they flip a Tails, they are discarding the energy, and that means we are forcing them to play the Super Energy Retrieval to get them back. And if they don't play enough of those cards, they may not be able to do enough damage to draw all 6 prizes, because we are playing a 1 prize Goodra with our Noivern EX. It may be better not to play the Noivern against a Becks, but you never know if it can come in useful, because we're only doing 120 damage at a time. 120 is not quite a lot with our Goodra, but we are stalling for a lot of time with this ability. So we're buying ourselves a lot of time. We are, discarding the energies with our Crushing Hammer and also Rugged Helmet. We even have that 1 Misfortune Sister to discard any items from the top 5 cards of their deck. And that's going to help us remove any Electric Generators, any Urn of Vitality, anything that they have that they need to recycle their energies, to, retrieve energies as well, or to search for more energies. So up against a Lugia V-Star, I don't think we stand a good chance because they are attaching from the deck using abilities, using the Archeops. Against Arceus V-Star as well, we don't really stand a good chance unless if we play Starmie at the right time. Starmie is going to help us, counter decks that get past our ability. So decks that can attach energy freely from the deck, from the discard pile like Claydol. We can't actually play our Slimy Room. We're not doing anything with Goodra. And that's why we have counter cards. We have other strategies built into this deck, like our Noivern EX, to basically lock them from using their rulebox abilities, to lock them from playing stadium cards, to deny them from doing any damage with their basic Pokemons using our Covert Flight attack, or to also play Energy Spiral with our Starmie for a huge knockout at the last minute. So they may not be expecting the Starmie with Energy Spiral because we actually need to play Raihan Experience Share on it. It requires 2 water, and that means we need either a Luminous with a water, basic water, or Raihan for a Luminous, something like that, to be able to attack using our Starmie. So it's not quite easy to use Starmie. Make sure you play it at the right time. 2 water, we only are playing 2 basic water and 2 Luminous, so we may not have the right energies to attach onto the Starmie until late game. So it's actually quite tricky to play that card. We're only playing 1 copy though, so it's basically there as attack. Anyways, back to the game. Here comes the Excalibur Stage 2 evolution with the Rare Candy. They're gonna do it right now. Let's hope they don't attach enough energies though on the from the get-go. If they get like 3 or 4 energies on this turn, it would be pretty bad. Because we don't have the Goodra in the active spot yet. But we evolve it soon enough on the next turn. And then they're gonna have to flip a coin each time they attach energies from their hand, and that would actually cost them a lot because they are discarding energies each time they attack with PAL, and that means they actually need the super energy retrieval. By default, they need it to get enough prizes to win the game. If they play Greninja, we have our... If they do Moonlight Shuriken, we have Manaphy to guard our bench, so we don't really need to worry about that. But if we can get a couple discards from their hand using our Slimy Room ability, that would actually secure us the win, because they may not have enough energies to discard to do enough damage, to kill off enough Pokemons to win the game. So running out of energy would be a really bad deal for Chien-Pao, especially against a one-price deck. Unless if they play Canceling Cologne against Manaphy, there is still the option for Chien-Pao to do that. Because Greninja is actually going to help them do more knockouts with less discards. And that's definitely a big plus for Chien-Pao EX. Especially if they get locked with the item. If we manage to discard 1 or 2 Super Energy Retrieval from the top 5 cards with our Misfortune Sister as well, that would be a jackpot, wouldn't it? It would be the jackpot. And we would actually be able to win the game by watching Chien-Pao struggle with not having enough energies to attach from their hand. They still have the Palkia though. They still have the Palkia V-Star, but they're actually playing Arceus for this deck. For this game, we saw Arceus on the bench. And that means they could actually be playing Trinity Nova to get energies onto, you know, maybe another bench Palkia or something like that. If they do Starbirth though, if they play Starbirth, they're not allowed to play Star Portal. So that's your dilemma, isn't it? If you do Palkia V-Star, you get 3 extra energies at some point in the game from the discard pile without having to play a retrieval. If you play Arceus, you get free searches from the deck. You can search for Super Energy Retrieval, you can search for Irida, you can search for anything, Rare Candy even. Obviously, searching for Irida is better than Rare Candy, but if you already have like a supporter card that you want to play and the Baxcalibur in your hand, might as well just search for Rare Candy and something else, and then you can play the supporter after doing the Rare Candy evolution. So you can never really say what's the best thing to do until you're at that moment, until you know what you have in your hand, until you know who you're playing against and what your opponent is actually planning to do. So you always have to anticipate your opponent's next move, what cards they have in their deck, what they're planning to do, what their strategy is. Obviously, for the meta, it's quite easy to do that. So here comes our Goodra, our first Slimy Room, and they actually conceded. Look at that. They conceded because they know Chien-Pao is attaching energy from the hand, and that's not good for them. If they lose too many energies, they're done. So that's the thing about Chien-Pao, is that even though it's doing easy knockouts, even though it's that hyper-jacked, it still has its own weakness. Every water energy inside the deck is precious. Every time you attach the water energy, you have to be very careful because you don't really have that many copies to spare. And you don't really have that many items to use. You can't really retrieve those energies that many times. And if you run out of your energies, it's over. So you gotta be extra careful. Even playing an overpowered deck like Chien-Pao, you can never really let your guard down. So anyways, now we're up against a fire deck with Armarouge and Arcanine EX. They're also playing Rapidash from Silver Tempest for the extra damage boost, hitting 30 more damage with their fire Pokemons if they discard a fire energy from their hand to do a one-hit knockout against a V-Star Pokemon or Stage 1 EX with their Arcanine. And they even got Magma Basin with Armarouge to recharge the active Arcanine with more energies to attack a second time for another OHKO. So it's actually a very, very solid deck. Arcanine is quite crazy right now because the first attack does 10x for each damage counters on that Pokemon. If your opponent does, not enough damage to knock out the Arcanine, if it has like 10 or 20 HP remaining, you can use the first attack, which requires only 2 fire, to basically do a massive knockout on your next turn. Because it has 30 base, it's doing 30 base plus 10 more damage for each damage counters on your Arcanine EX, which is a lot. Because they even get to stack Rapidash's ability to do even more damage with Raging Claws, and that is just absolute madness. Absolute madness. 280 HP for Fire type. Pretty crazy, because you actually get to do Magma Basin on the Armarouge instead of your Growlithe on the bench, and that means you got extra energies by moving the energy onto your active, firing off the basic energy from your Armarouge onto your Arcanine EX after evolving it on your next turn. So it's quite easy to play it. If you add a couple Raihan Experience Share onto the deck, it should be easy enough to get enough energies to attack non-stop consistently, doing 250 damage, plus even more if you get to discard energy with your Rapidash as well. So they are playing a lot of stage Pokemon, so they are playing not just Arcanine EX as the evolution with Armor Rouge, but also Bibarel and Rapidash. So that's a lot of evolutions. I feel like Greninja would work really well because it helps them draw cards just in case they don't get, you know, the Bibarel out yet. They get to draw at least 2 cards at a time until they get their supporter cards, until they get the, you know, stage 1 evolution for Bibarel to help them support their hand. So here comes Iono. And we got Radiant Venusaur with our Bibarel ready to go. And we should be able to evolve the Goodra on the next turn, but I don't think it's going to help us much for this game, just because they are attaching from the deck using Stoke right now. They're attaching from the discard pile as well with their Magma Basin, so I feel like Noivern EX would actually help a lot more, just because we are denying them from playing the Magma Basin. If we get our Artazon or our Path to the Peak, we can at least, you know, deny them the extra energy with the Basin. We actually played both though. We played our Goodra and Noivern for this game. We actually did force them to discard a couple energies from their hand. And that's at least doing some damage, you know, in terms of control, just because they may not have enough energies by the end of the game to do the last knockout. So that's where we're heading with this strategy. We want to be disrupting them as much as possible, slowly, you know, removing their resources, their energy resources, their items, you know, by playing our Rugged Helmet, Crushing Hammer. We could actually slowly play a control strategy to kind of get our all 6 prizes with Noivern EX at the last minute by slowing them down, by removing their energies, by, you know, locking them in different ways. So it's not really a powerful deck, but it's kind of a fun control deck that we're playing. But it can be powerful if you know exactly what to do at the right time. If you know how to play the deck right, it can always be a powerful strategy. Because we have a lot at our disposal. We also have Noivern. Let's not forget that Noivern can do Covert Flight that prevents all damage done by basic Pokemon's attacks during your opponent's next turn. And that could help you stall until you get the right cards out, until you can play the Path for Dominating Echo to lock their, you know, rule box abilities until you get your Rare Candy evolution, or even your Raihan and Luminous for your Starmie. So anyways, back to the game. Now we're gonna play Escape Rope to push the Growlithe back to the bench. So I think our strategy right now is to buy some time until we get enough energies to attack with Noivern. We could actually have done the Ultra Ball with Rare Candy evolution for Slimy Room to deny them the energy from their hand, forcing them to flip the coin every time they attach from the hand, but that's not really doing much, is it? We ought to be playing our Goodra only when we have enough energies to attack with it, so might as well just sacrifice one of the Goomy and then play our third one. Later on, we can bench another Goomy to do a second Rare Candy evolution later on in the game when we actually need it. Okay, they're actually playing Candela, which is a very, very fun card for from Pokemon Go that actually allows you to attach an energy of fire energy from your discard pile onto any one of your bench Pokemon if you flip a heads while drawing 2 cards into your hand. This is definitely very interesting that they're playing Candela for standard. I'm loving it. Because in addition to the Magma Basin, they actually got the supporter to help them attach more energies for them to play Arcanine, since they are forced to discard energies each time they play the attack for 250 damage, and it actually fits in really well with Rapidash as well. Rapidash's Heat Boost attack ability that allows you to do 30 more damage with your 5 Pokemon's attacks by discarding a fire energy from your hand, and then you get to play Magma Basin, Candela to attach from the discard pile, which is just perfect. Beautiful synergy. Except Candela doesn't really work for standard because you're flipping a coin. Flipping coins never really is a good deal, but they got Bibarel for the draw engine though, so Candela drawing only 2 cards isn't really that bad of a deal if you already have Bibarel for the draw engine. With Skwovet as well. I don't think they have a Skwovet though. They have probably Ultra Ball, ways to discard their hand, so I don't think it should be that bad. Okay, here comes Noivern, but unfortunately we didn't get our stadium card, so they have the Magma Basin in place still. We're only playing 3 stadiums for this deck. We have our Artazon and 2 copies of Path to the Peak. And we don't have any other ways to search for the stadium except Raihan. And we don't really want to be playing Raihan just for the search. It's actually better to just draw cards until you get the stadium. We have Iono, we have Serena, and also Arven, which doesn't really help us search for our stadium cards. There isn't any supporter, or Skyla is rotated, so there isn't any supporter or item that allows you to search for the stadium card for standard right now, which is not good. We used to have, there is still Creme-O-Matic though, but obviously you have to flip a coin, which is not good. There's the drone. Nobody ever uses the drone because you have to flip 2 coins, which is just kind of a scam. I feel like it's a scam. It's not gonna work in any deck, is it? I guess they're trying to bring back the old PC from Darkness Ablaze, if I'm not mistaken. We used to have old PC that allows you to search for any card from the discard pile and put it into your hand. Any one card if you get 2 heads. So Delivery Drone, kind of the same thing. If you flip 2 heads, you get to search your deck for any one card and put it into your hand without ending your turn, like the camping gear from Battlestars is actually still legal for standard right now. But we used to have Skyla as well to search for a stadium card, put into our hand. Nothing else. You only get to search for 1 trainer with a supporter card, which is terrible. We used to have Guzma and Hala for Sun and Moon. But I've been saying this for a really long time. You guys already know what I'm about to say. They have to reprint Stadium Nav. They need to give us back that item to help us search for any stadium that we want and put into play, or at least a basic ability that helps us put into play a stadium from the deck, right? A stage 1 ability, anything. Search your deck for a stadium card and put it into play, right? Search your discard pile for a stadium card if I care. Anything. An ability. Something to put a stadium into play or to search for it. Simple, right? Like, it should be quite easy for them to do that, but I don't know why they're making this game so complicated now. There is no way to search for stadiums. Why? Like, do they not know how important it is to get Temple of Sinnoh, to get Path to the Peak when you need it? They're forcing us to play 4 copies of the damn stadium. I don't want to play 4 copies. Obsidian Flames is coming, and I know you guys are excited, and you know, there are new sets coming out from Japan, and let's hope they come up with better effects of attacks, better abilities, things that we do actually need, right? Like, there needs to be something that adds bench damage, something like Telescopic Sight that helps us do more damage onto our opponent's bench Pokemon, with an ability, with an item card, tool card, whatever, a stadium that does 20 more damage, 30 more damage to their bench EXs, to their bench Pokemon. It would be better if it's a stage 2 ability that helps us do extra damage onto the bench, rather than, a stage 1 that does, that doesn't really do much only onto EXs. Is kind of a bad deal because we have Terrestrial now. Terrestrial Pokemon actually prevents all damage done to it by attacks when it is on your bench, and that would be really bad if we have something similar to Telescopic Sight for Scarlet and Violet, something that allows you to only do 30 more damage or 20 more damage onto your opponent's bench EX Pokemon. But I can see them going a different direction for spread though, just because we have seen cards like Mousehole, Vespiquen EX that allows us to place damage counters on each of our opponent's bench Pokemon. Instead of doing bench snipe, instead of hitting damage onto our opponent's bench Pokemon, we are placing damage counters instead, and that actually gets past the terrestrial effect, making it the more powerful spread option. But it would be a bit disappointing to watch the terrestrial's effect go to waste, because that's the only thing terrestrial have, in addition to the type change. It's to prevent all damage while it is on the bench. I mean, there should be new tool cards that help give terrestrial Pokemons a boost. Tool cards that works for only terrestrial Pokemons. I mean, that would be so much fun. But I digress. So, we're just gonna check what they have in the discard pile. And see what's the best thing to do right now. They actually did a boss on our Venusaur, and we don't have any more switch cards in the deck. We have no more Escape Rope, our only switch option, unfortunately. So we're gonna have to attach enough energy onto the Radiant Venusaur to retreat. Or we could wait for them to knock it out. Whichever comes first. Let's hope they just knock it out with the Rapidash right now. Could they actually do the knockout with Ponyta? Because they have the Defiance ban. I don't think it's enough though. Because Venusaur, a Radiant Pokemon, normally has more than 120 HP. I think Sneasler and Greninja has 130. That's the lowest for Radiant Pokemon. The other Radiant Pokemon has Charjabug. Radiant Charjabug has only 70 HP, if I'm not mistaken. Is it 90 or 70? I'm actually not sure. That's like the lowest of all time for Radiant Pokemon. So I think I'm just gonna end the voice over here and if you guys focus on the game. Hope you guys enjoyed this one. Today we are featuring the old Goodra from Fusion Strike with the Slimy Room ability, forcing your opponent to flip a coin each time they attach an energy from their hand onto any one of their Pokemon. And if they flip a Tails, they have to discard the energy each time they attach it from their hand. We actually get to play our Noivern EX as well for the extra control, locking our opponent from playing Stadium cards on their next turn. With our positive peak in play, we actually get to lock their rulebox abilities at the same time, or we could even do Covert Flight to prevent all damage done to our Noivern EX on our opponent's next turn by attacks from basic Pokemon. So that's all for this video. Hope you guys enjoyed it. We'll see you next time. Have a great day and bye from the people. Enjoy life.